So we're in chapter 9 today, motivation and emotion, on page 329. It says a motive is a need or desire that directs our behavior toward a goal. What motivated you to get up and come to class today? You don't know?
The fact that I'm paying for this class.
I'm paying for this class. I'm going to go see if I'm getting my money's worth out of it. Anybody else? What motivated you to come to class today? You know, I didn't even think about it. It's just what I do. I get up and go to class. Why? You don't know why? You just do it? You never thought about why? What motivated you to pick the clothes you're wearing today?
My new shoes.
I got some new shoes, so I wanted clothes to match them.
Yeah.
All right. The rest of them don't even know what motivated them to pick the clothes they have today.
Comfort.
Comfort?
Like I have
Okay.
to change later before I go to work. But
All
I can
right.
be
I
comfortable
picked
in
something
class.
that's comfortable. The rest of you don't want to talk about it?
I wanted to wear a button that says log on it.
All right. I want to wear this button. Anybody else? What motivated you to put on a sweater this morning?
Thought it was cold out.
I thought it was cold out. What motivated you to wear a sweater?
I'm gonna be outside tonight.
Going to be outside today, but you don't wear a sweater every day. But today it's
Cool.
cold. You girls are wearing jackets back there, aren't you? What's motivated you to wear those heavy coats to school today? I came outside and go, whoa, it's a little brisk out here. Maybe I need a jacket. And I'm going, no, I don't need a jacket. I can tough this stuff out. I mean, it doesn't hurt for us just to stop and think about what motivates me to do what I'm doing. And the more you think about it, the more you kind of get a handle on this motivation stuff. When a stimulus induces a behavior, it says in the textbook, we say it has motivated the person. Liv's just picked up her cup and took a drink of it back there. What motivated her to do that?
Tastes good.
You've got some coffee
Yeah.
and it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, I just said she's drinking coffee and she says it's good. What are you drinking, Molly?
Coffee?
She's drinking coffee and she says
It's fine.
it's fine. Do any of you put coffee and good together or coffee and fine together? Or do you put coffee and yeah together? Anybody? What word goes with coffee?
Usually good.
What?
Good.
Good? Good? I'm thinking coffee and bitter go together.
Not how I drink it. I put this is pretty much not even coffee with how much
Oh,
sugar.
I don't think I want to hear this story. My wife drinks coffee. Why? She apparently doesn't like it. You say, what do you mean? She fills the cup up. She puts 3 or 4 packets of sugar in it, and a third of it's milk. Why would you put sugar in milk? And then why would you even put coffee in that stuff to affect the taste of it? Well, she said, we grew up drinking coffee at our house. There was always a coffee pot on the stove, and everybody drank coffee. And I said, and? She said, and I didn't care for the taste, so I started adding sugar and milk. So she really doesn't like coffee. She likes sugar and milk with a little bit of coffee flavoring in it. Sugar. Sugar. What's with all this sugar stuff? Isn't stuff sweet enough on its own without adding sugar to it? What do you add sugar to in your life? Do you put sugar on cereal? Do you put milk on cereal? Then you put sugar on it? Why are you shaking your heads no? What would motivate someone to put sugar on it? I mean, when I was a kid, I did. It's like, why? I like that sweet taste, and I'd put it on everything. I'd put sugar on tomatoes. I'd put sugar on grapefruit. I'd put sugar on just about anything. And then my mother read something that said sugar wasn't good for you. Oh, is that what you've heard? Sugar wasn't good for you? We shouldn't eat so much sugar? So you just cut it out completely. We had lots of tea at our house. So I'm probably a tea drinker instead of a coffee drinker. And what motivates me to do that? Part of it, the way I was raised. So it's just like, okay. So we drink tea with sugar in it. And then my mom read this thing about that wasn't good for us. So she quit putting sugar in it. And we're all going, yeah, Mom, this doesn't taste good. She said, if you want sugar in it, put it in yourself. And I still remember sitting there thinking, you know, that's really a lot of trouble to get the sugar bowl and take some out and put it in there and stir it up and dissolve it. I'll just drink it without sugar. What motivated me to drink it without sugar? I was too lazy to put sugar in it and sweeten it up. And then once I started drinking it without sugar, then when you start putting sugar in it, it doesn't taste as good. Isn't that right? Doesn't sugar kind of take away some of the taste of stuff? Or does it enhance the taste of it? What motivates you to do what you're doing? And when something causes you to behave in a certain way, it has motivated your behavior. When you go to lunch today, there will be something that will motivate you to do whatever you do in the cafeteria. You'll be motivated to pick up or not pick up certain foods, and then you'll be motivated to go sit with somebody or not sit with somebody. I mean, all of life. I get up in the morning, I walk out the door this morning, and I say, and my wife says, I love you, Tom. I say, I love you, Nina. Why does she say I love you, Tom? Why do I say I love you, Nina? What's that all about? Just as I'm walking out the door. What motivates her to say that? What motivates me to say that? And that was an awkward thing for me to pick up on because I never heard people saying I love you to each other when I was growing up. It wasn't that we questioned our love. I mean, we knew everybody loved each other in our family. We just never talked about it. And then I get married and reading this book written by some Christian on marriage, and he says that your wife needs to hear you say you love her every day. I'm going, what? She thinks I changed my mind when I married her? I mean, what's going on here? He just said that's just the way she's wired. That's the way God made her. You know, if you agree with that guy who wrote that book, that women like to hear the significant people in their lives say to them on a daily basis, I love you? Is that true? Yes? Yes? I'm asking the ladies here. Is that true? For you? You go, I don't know. No, I don't think so. So I wasn't sure. I thought, I'll just ask my wife. I said, Nina, would that be significant to you? And she goes, that would be kind of nice. Well, I can be kind of nice, so I'll just start doing it. Once I start doing it, guess what happens? She gets used to it. Now, what does she want to hear? I've actually done some experiments once in a while to see how many days I could go without saying I love you to see if it would affect her behavior. You go, that's disgusting. I know. This psychology stuff gets in you and you start doing experiments to see what happens. And I don't do it very often anymore. I probably don't do it anymore because early on when I did some of those experiments, it confirmed that she really does want to hear that, and it's not that much trouble to say it, so just say it and mean it, and then go on with your life. Page 330 says, early in the 20th century, psychology and psychologists were inclined to attribute all behavior to instincts. Any idea what was going on in the early 20th century that caused them to say everything we do is instinctive? What was popular in the early 20th century? I mean, clear up until then, most people concluded that we were created by the God of the universe. And then some scientists came along and said, no, we're just a more sophisticated animal. Now, when you look at animals, are they pretty much driven by instinct? So what did they conclude? That's the way we are. We're just sophisticated animals, so everything going on in our life is instinct. And I thought the textbook handles that very well, the way they talk about it. And today, most people who talk about human behavior talk about the behavior was either learned. Now let's see. What have you learned? What behavior patterns do you have that you've learned from your parents or your siblings? Can you think of any?
Oh, my speech pattern.
What?
My speech pattern. Get that from my mom.
Your speech pattern? You talk like your mom? Does sometimes in our lives, when people say, you sound just like your mom, it's going, I am not my mom, I'm my own person. And then the longer you live, the more you think, hey, it's not so bad being like my mom, being like my dad. It's not as bad as someone might think it is. What are you drinking, Sadine?
Vodka.
They're drinking coffee back there. Those three on the back row.
Well, I would have chocolate milk, but it was bad this morning.
Would you like to have a cup of coffee? No. Okay, we're just talking about chapter 9, what motivates us here. And today, most people say, okay, a lot of your behavior is the result of what you've learned. Who drinks coffee in this room? Who likes coffee? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who doesn't like coffee? And why don't you like coffee?
I don't like the taste of it.
Don't like the taste of it?
Yeah, well, it's not that I don't like the taste of it, it's just I don't want to take the time to make coffee.
Okay, I don't want to take the time and energy to make the stuff.
I don't need caffeine.
I don't need the caffeine.
Coffee, yeah.
That the coffee's got caffeine in it, and I don't really need that. And it's like the flavor isn't that appealing to me. And those of you who like it, were you introduced to it at home, or did you just pick it up on your own? It was at home? So there you go. You've got a behavior that you picked up from home that has to do with drinking coffee. Oh, maybe that's what happened with me. We weren't allowed to drink coffee when I was growing up at home. What? My dad did. My mom didn't drink it. Any idea what my mom said that happened if we drank coffee when we were kids?
You want to grow.
It would stunt our growth. Is that true? Has it stunted anybody's growth in here? So I don't know where she got that information, but it's like we didn't get to drink it. And when I got older and tasted it, I was like you, Sedane, I didn't care for the taste of it. So I said, I'll drink something else. And it is a lot of trouble to make it. Why not just open a bottle of pop and drink that? Is anybody here thinking because that's not good for you? One. Anybody else thinking because opening a bottle of pop and drinking it is not good for you? A little? How could it not be good for you when it tastes so good? Is anyone here saying pop doesn't taste that good?
I'm not a huge fan of it.
It's like, I don't get what people like about this stuff. It kind of burns a little bit. It's like, what's the deal here? What's going on? And again, probably part of that has to do with just what we've learned from the past. The second thing he says, there on page 330 to 332, is human behavior is explained by an effort to reduce an unpleasant state of tension and regain balance or comfort. Probably the driving word would be comfort, being comfortable. An effort to reduce an unpleasant state. I've been teaching here a long time, and a number of years ago, one of the requirements for faculty members, for the men, was that we would wear ties to teach in. So I would come to class with a tie on every day. And then they changed the rule, and I'm going, how cool is that? Why? Because it's more comfortable not to wear a tie. Well, then why did I wear one? Because it was expected of me as a faculty member, and I wanted to live up to the expectations of those that I worked for, so I would get to come back and teach again next year. And you could just stop and think about your motives. I mean, Seven's wearing comfortable clothes today because she has to go home and change into her work clothes, and they're not as comfortable. Why don't you just wear your comfortable clothes to work and see what happens? You know what would happen, right?
Yeah, I work with kids.
Yeah, and it's just like, nope, that's not the way it works. And why would we become a little uncomfortable at times? Because of something else that motivates us on a different level. Like what? Like earning some money to buy things you want. Were any of you ever told, when you said to your mom or dad, I want something, and they said, well, get a job, earn some money, and buy it yourself? And your reaction to that was, that's a wonderful idea. I don't think so. Probably your first reaction was, can't you just buy it for me? And then after you do start working and earning some money and buy stuff yourself, all of a sudden, what happens? That becomes very comfortable, doesn't it? I mean, isn't there a degree of comfort with earning your own money and buying your own stuff? Unless you worked hard to earn some money and you bought something that broke right away, and then you were a bit uncomfortable about the fact that you just spent a lot of money on something that wasn't as satisfying as you thought it would be, and now the money's all gone, and you have to go work a lot of hours to get the money back again. I take my grandsons out once in a while when I pick them up after sports or after school, and I say, you want to get something to eat on the way home? And they go, yeah, let's stop and buy something at Taco Bell. So we pull in there and I buy something, and then I say, let's see, at your job, how long would you have to work to earn enough money to buy what I just bought you at Taco Bell? And they would sit and figure it out and tell me how many hours they'd have to work. And I'd say, so would we have been better off to go to McDonald's and buy one of those $1 chicken sandwiches? And one grandson says, yes, if I'm paying for it, that's what we would do. The other one says, no, I don't like chicken sandwiches from McDonald's. So he would just be willing to pay more out of his money for something else. It's comfort levels. We start thinking about your comfort levels. I mean, my wife's quit asking this now because she's figured it out. But I leave to come to work. I leave to get here for my 8 o'clock class at about 7:15. That's my game plan. And it takes me about 12 minutes to get here. What is that all about? Why would I get to class at least 30 minutes before class starts? It's a comfort level thing with me. I just like to be early and to be the first one here and turn the lights on and get the computer up and operating and turn on the copy machine in case I need to make copies. It's just a comfort level. So basically, a lot of things we do are to reduce an unpleasant state. And if I waited till the last minute to get here and ran into a traffic jam, do you see how that could create tension in my life? And I don't want to walk into class all tied up in knots and tense because of a traffic jam. So just get here early and be relaxed when class starts. The third one is an effort to survive or satisfy primary drives. Now, see, I just now read it, and look what happened. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 people out there sipping on stuff, and I just talked about primary drives, and I just realized something. That is so sweet. I'm a little thirsty, so I pick up my little water bottle and take a drink. Have I just made some of you uncomfortable? No. The ones with drinks are saying no. The ones who don't have a drink are probably thinking, if you're going to bring a bottle of water to class, you should bring one for the rest of us, so I won't be thirsty either. There's a discomfort level with what's going on there. And it's just like I'm just satisfying a primary drive. A primary drive to satisfy my thirst, and then you can start to identify some of your primary drives. And I pull this bench over here and see that's another one. Now that we're talking about them, I'm starting to think about them, and I pull this chair over here and I sit down for a minute. I go, oh. You can tell by the look on my face, can't you, that I've just satisfied a primary drive to take the load off my feet and relax a little bit. But I'm not comfortable. See, I'm back to that word again. I'm not comfortable doing that. So I put it aside and stand up because I'm much more comfortable teaching from a standing position, even if it doesn't satisfy one of my primary drives. It's almost like my comfort level stuff starts to override my primary stuff and say, you know what? I might want to have a drink, but I'm not going to take one. And I might want to sit down, but I'm not. I'm going to stand up because I've got other kinds of drives going on in my life that have to do with comfort levels. But all of us have basic survival needs, that the need to eat, the need to drink. Actually, I told somebody one time, I don't get hungry very often. I mean, I really don't. I don't get hungry very often. Have you ever really been hungry? Like been without food to where your primary drive, your body was saying, feed me, feed me, feed me? I guess what? If you've been there, you know it's what? Kind of like a little bit of a knot in your stomach that's saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. It's sending a message to the brain. And you're saying, no, I'm on a new eating regimen. You don't get fed for another 2 hours. So you deny your primary urge for food with because you have something else that is driving you to deny that. But then I say, well, no, that doesn't happen with me. Well, it hasn't in most of my life. As I get older, my doctor tells me I need to do things to be healthier. I start to do more of that kind of thing. But generally, I like to eat. I enjoy food. So consequently, I very rarely get hungry because my appetite for consuming food kicks in often enough just to have a pleasant experience. It isn't that I would die if I didn't eat. It's like I've had food to eat, but I'd like to have something else just because I have a craving for food and I enjoy eating it. And there you come to something that you say, now I'm not just trying to be comfortable, I'm doing something that I just enjoy doing. And that brings us up to the fourth one there, an effort to satisfy some kind of secondary drive or learned drive. Did I learn, have I acquired this appetite for food? Is that a primary drive or is that a secondary drive? Something I've learned from somewhere. My mom was a very good cook. Did any of you go to school where you had to take your lunches because they didn't have a cafeteria? Well, I did. And guess what my mom sent me for lunch quite frequently? She would get up early in the morning and go out and catch a chicken and clean it and fry the chicken and put it in my lunch pail to take to school. And all the kids in the classroom could smell my fried chicken. I could take 3 pieces of fried chicken and eat one of them and use the other 2 pieces to trade people out of most of their lunch. Because everybody wanted a piece of the fried chicken. And it's like, why did my mom do that? I asked one of my aunts one time, my mom's sister, why did my mom do stuff like that? And she said, your mom loved to cook. So there, I had a mother who loved to cook and who cooked all this delicious food. And what did I learn to do? I learned to eat just for the fun of it, because it was delicious. It tasted good. Number 5 is a motivation that, alertness or arousal. It has to do with our interest and our curiosity. Have you ever been curious about something? Have you ever wondered what something tastes like and put it in your mouth just to see? Have you ever tasted dirt? Have you ever known some kid that you could dare them to eat anything and they would put it in their mouth and chew on it? What is wrong with that child? What is wrong with that person? You don't do that. In fact, I just read on the internet not too long ago, some guy in England on a dare ate a slug. You know those slimy little things that go across the sidewalk? His friends dared him to eat a slug and he ate it. You ready for this? Guess what happened? He died. The slug has so many toxins in it that it killed him. I told that story to one of my grandsons. Any idea why I told that particular grandson that story? He's one of those kids who if you dared him, he just might do it. Don't. Some people have an interest in things. Some people have a curiosity about things. Why did I hear this when I was a child? You know, Tommy, curiosity killed a cat. Have you ever heard that one? Why was my mother always telling me that? Because I had a lot of curiosity. I was just curious about stuff. A need to know. Do you ever think of yourself, this often happens in math class. You knew how to work a problem, but by using a formula, but you had a need to know why that formula worked. I mean, it wasn't enough just to use the formula and get the answer. You needed to know why that formula worked. Anybody here like that? And it happens that if a teacher realizes that, then they need to take the time to show you how that formula works. Often when I teach math, I will say to somebody, this is the formula. Now, who would like to know how it works? And there's only like 1 or 2 people who want to know, and the rest of them say, I don't care, just give me the formula, I'll do the work and go on my way. But see, we're all wired a little different. You say, no, I have a need to know that. I need to know. We put up an electric fence at on our farm when I was growing up, when we put the cattle out on a wheat field for what we called wheat pasture in the wintertime. and we'd put up an electric fence to keep them to the part of the field we wanted them on. And I would look at these big old cows and this little wire strung around the outside, hooked up to a little charger that goes dink, 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 and sends an electrical impulse through the wire. I was curious as to why the cows would stay away from that wire. So what do you think I did? I walked up. Have any of you ever done that? Walked up to an electric fence and touched it? What happened when you touched the wire? Ah! That's why cows stay away from it. And then, if you watch the cattle out there, one of them walks up and smells the fence and puts their nose on it. Can you imagine sticking your tongue out and putting your tongue on that electric fence? Ah, that would be devastating. I would not do that. Sometimes people just want to be entertained. They're looking for what? Just to have some fun? To do something exciting? Sometimes people are motivated because they want to be informed. They want to know about something. Or some people do things because they want to just be aware of what it's like to do that. Number 6, the motivation is sensation seeking. That's another whole category. Let's do something dangerous. Does that appeal to anybody in here when I say let's do something dangerous? See, it does?
Yeah.
See, I saw 1, 2 people go yes. I saw some thank you for saying no. Let's do something dangerous. Oh yeah, like life isn't dangerous enough already. Let's go out and add to the risk. Now see, you 2 people aren't going to live very long until you change your attitude about that danger stuff. The rest of us in here, we understand, don't we? We're not messing around with danger stuff. Let's just do something thrilling. Thrilling? The first time I was introduced to someone said, let's do something thrilling, is they actually called it, let's take a thrill ride at an amusement park. And what was the thrill ride? The train going around the outside of the amusement park? No. Hey, that's thrilling enough for me. Riding that train, watching people walk around, getting to see the whole place. That's a good enough thrill for me. No, let's go on the roller coaster. Okay, I'll do it once. Thrilling? Do you call riding a roller coaster thrilling? I call roller coasters scary. And I'm not doing that again. Now, there was something missing in the picture in my head. When we went up over those hills and we were coming down and going up so fast, I was sitting in the back and I kept thinking, how does this train, it obviously is flying up in the air because we're going so fast, how does it keep landing on the tracks every time it comes back down? Now, I know better than that now, but at the time I didn't. Was it actually flying up in the air? But see, my only experience with something similar to a roller coaster would be the train that goes by not too far from our house, and it only has wheels on top of the track. A roller coaster has wheels on top of the track and underneath it. Do all of you know that? Well, I didn't. And I thought I was going to fly off into space and the car come unconnected. Scared me to death. And then when I got off the train and looked at it, I thought I should have done this before to see that they have wheels underneath to keep it from flying off the track. Well, now that you've got your need to know satisfied, are you ready to do something thrilling again? Nope. Been there, done that. Why would I get on a roller coaster? I think I have done it since then because when I had little children. But it's like, okay, so they say, wasn't that fun, Dad? I said, fun? It's like it bounced me around so fast it was beating me up. You call getting beat up by something that bounces you around fun? Yeah. I said, well, then go on it the next time by yourself. And then on page 332, it talks about incentive, motivation, behavior. And I think I have, intrinsic and extrinsic. I've got a handout for you here that I think will help you sort out this intrinsic and extrinsic stuff. They're stuck together for some reason. Extrinsic basically is something external, and intrinsic is something internal. Is probably the easiest way to think about it. We're on page 332. Extrinsic and intrinsic. Intrinsic and extrinsic. It doesn't matter which order you say it in. But what I like about this handout, and for the people online, I'll upload this to files on Canvas so you can download it and look at it. But it talks about sources of motivation, external sources, social sources, biological sources, cognitive sources, affective sources. Cognitive, your thoughts, affections, your feelings, and then conative sources, and then spiritual sources. And this is why I like this handout. A whole lot of people in psychology overlook this spiritual dimension. And I like the fact that they've added that to the list. Maybe the one that you're not familiar, you're familiar with the words. Probably all those words are words you're familiar with, except that conative word. And I looked that up in the dictionary and thought, why are they using a word that we're not very familiar with? And it's Latin. There you go. It's a Latin word that has to attempt something. So basically, there are biological drives, cognitive drives, or motives, biological motives, cognitive motives, affective motives, and conscious efforts to achieve something. So you could probably call conative is a conscious effort to achieve something, or maybe if you're following this, cognitive, affective, and achievement, that you just simply want to achieve something. Does anyone here, when you're told to write a paper or do an assignment or take a test you're going to be graded on, does anyone here say, making a B or a C is good enough for me, I don't need to earn an A? And then do some of you go, I'm going to work the extra 2 or 3 hours to get the A? I just never understood that. It's just a little letter on a piece of paper. Why would anyone work that hard for an A? It's just a satisfying thing to get one of those on your paper. Now, I don't care for C's personally, but B's are good enough for me. Now, where does that come from, Tom? Sure didn't come from my parents. Well, I don't know. Now, see, I'll just start thinking about it. Where did my comfort level with B's come from? Oh, what's my name? Tom Bonine. I'm thinking that since my last name starts with a B, I have an affinity for B's. You go, that's kind of dumb. I said, well, okay, do you have another explanation? Yeah, you're too lazy to work hard enough to earn an A. No, I'm not lazy. I'm a pretty industrious guy. I just didn't want to spend my industry in that area of work. I'd rather spend it someplace else. My conscious effort to do something focuses on in another direction rather than just the extra hours needed to earn an A. Oh, wait a minute. That shows up when I'm painting a room too. If I volunteered to paint this room, I could probably have it done in just no time at all. And then a perfectionist would walk in here and look up at the ceiling and go, "Ha, I see where you didn't cut in along the ceiling tile. You just took the roller and kind of ran along there and did the room." And I'm going, "Yeah?" He goes, "Well," he said, "you need to take a brush and cut in." Now, see, understand, taking a paintbrush and cutting in a real fine line right next to the ceiling all the way around the room would probably take as much time as it took me to take a roller and paint the whole wall all the way around. You follow me? And guess what I'm thinking? See, I'm not a perfectionist, okay? Guess what I'm thinking? Who looks up there anyway? When you walk into a room, do you look up at the ceiling to see if the people who painted the room cut it in with a brush? Does anyone do that? Anyone in this room do that? Well, the principal I worked for one time said, "I do that," he said. And I said to myself, I'm not surprised. So I got a little can of the paintbrush and spent another day cutting in around the edge just to be comfortable in my working relationship with my boss. And it's healthy to start to identify why you do that. And why am I doing that? Because I want to please my boss. One time a guy I worked with said to me, he said, "Tom, how come the principal, every time you ask for something, he gives it to you, and every time I ask for something, he says, no, we can't afford it?" And I smiled. We were eating lunch together, and I said, "Oh, that's an easy one." And he said, "It is?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Every time he suggests we do something, I say, 'Okay, boss, whatever you say.' And what do you say? You go, 'Why do we have to do that?' And you start complaining about it." Anyone know someone like that? Who every time someone over them suggests they do something, they start asking why and arguing with them about it? I said, "You argue with him so you make his life uncomfortable. So when you ask for something, he makes your life uncomfortable by saying no. Since I make him a happy camper, when I ask for something, what do you think he says? Yes, I think we can do that, Tom. And if he says, well, money's a little tight, and I said, well, I'll pay half of it. You understand? I'm just trying to make him more comfortable. I'll pay half of it out of my own pocket. Well, if that's the case, then yeah, let's go ahead and order it. And you pay half, and the school will pay the other half. Because I'm just making him comfortable. If you decide that you want to make the other people, that your circle of friends, you focus on making their lives comfortable, and they will consider you one of their best friends in life. My wife doesn't have to get out of the house and get in the car and go to the store and buy the groceries. Why not? Because the ads come in the mail, she circles what's on sale, and then she lays it by the door. And in fact, I'll even call when I leave here and I'll say, Nina, is there anything you need from the store? And I think she'll probably say, I'm going to need some milk, Tom. And I said, great, I'll go get some. No sense you getting out and going to the store. I'm already out. I'll just stop by on the way home and pick some up. And I'm making her life comfortable. So what happens when I get home? I've been teaching. I went to the store, did some shopping. I sit down in my easy chair, take my shoes off, kick back. I go, oh no. She goes, what? I said, I forgot to get me a glass of apple juice before I sat down in this chair. Does anybody in this room have a guess as to what my wife does? And my daughters think it's disgusting that okay, how do you describe that? She waits on me. Have you heard that saying somewhere? What? Hand and foot. I mean, I could be sitting there with a stiff back and I'd say, oh, I shouldn't have taken my shoes off. I need to go outside and take care of something. And she'll go, I'll put your shoes on for you. Why is she so willing to make my life so comfortable? Because I do things to make her life comfortable. She doesn't have to worry about it. And it's kind of funny. When she makes the shopping list, she'll put down what she needs. Then she'll put some other things by it and go, ha ha, like it'd be fun to have that. Any idea what I always do when she puts ha ha by something? I buy it for her. Why? Because I'm just sowing seeds to reap a harvest that she says it's coming back your way. This is not rocket science, people. This is just psychology. And isn't it what the Bible teaches us? Joy in life, Jesus first, others second, yourself last. And come to find out, all those people that you're putting above yourself, they start putting you above themselves. It's a marvelous system. So that's why this spiritual dimension is important, because it has so much to do with all of this. So, do you have any questions about some of these sources of motivation for these various categories? It helps you understand that by looking at that list. If you have a question about one, go ahead and speak up. Page 333 to 335 talks about hunger and thirst. We all know about that, don't we? What should you do when you're thirsty? Drink some coffee, drink some Mountain Dew, drink some water, drink some apple juice. Drink some white grape peach juice. Oh, that stuff is so good. Anyone have, of those 5 choices, which one would you recommend?
Water.
Water. Now see, some of those other things are making me salivate a little bit. But you're right, Seven. Drink that water. And if you don't, down the road, you'll probably pay a price for drinking the other stuff. Okay. We eat when our brain tells us to eat, but remember, sometimes your brain is telling you to eat because you need certain things in your body. Other times, your brain is telling you to eat because you have developed an appetite for food that you just enjoy eating it. The other night, my daughter upstairs said, I have some spaghetti up here if anybody wants some. And I said, I'll come up and get some in a minute and bring it down to your mom. She's busy. So I went upstairs with a bowl about this big around and about this tall. And I filled it up with spaghetti. And I'm sitting there talking to her and eating a little bit of it. And this stuff is so good. It's so delicious. I just keep eating. Now, the bowl was big enough for 2 people. So half of it was going to be given to my wife when I got downstairs. And I sat there visiting with my daughter and eating. I said, this stuff is really delicious. She goes, well, thanks, Dad. And I said, it really is. I said, I can't believe I'm eating all this. And pretty soon my wife came up wondering, I thought you were bringing me back some spaghetti. And I said, well, we got started visiting. And so she got a bowl and got her some, and we sat down at the table. And you know what I did? I sat there enjoying the conversation, enjoying this delicious spaghetti, and I ate 2 people's servings of spaghetti. Have any of you ever done that? Something tasted so good that you ate 1 piece, you ate 1 serving, and it was so good you went back and got another one? Then have you ever gone back for a 3rd one because the 2nd one was just as good as the 1st one? And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I shouldn't have done that, because your body is saying, overload, overload, ate too much stuff. What's going on? Why didn't my brain stop me? Because I have such an appetite for food. I love to eat. So just because your brain's telling you to eat doesn't mean you need to eat as much as you do. My wife and I have figured out that what we need to do as we get older is to eat smaller portions and to eat more frequently. Instead of eating like certain size portions 3 times a day, we eat half of that 6 times a day. And it's been quite an adjustment for me. I just happen to love peanut butter sandwiches. Anybody else like peanut butter sandwiches? Just take some peanut butter and put it on a slice of bread. And then see, then it used to be, and put another slice on top of it. And if you want to, put some grape jelly on it, or put some honey on it. And it's like, no, Nina, just put it on one slice of bread and then fold it over. So I eat half as much. You just start saying that if I'm going to be healthy, I probably need to cut down on the quantity. You say, yeah, but I feel like eating it. Well, yeah, but look what it's doing to your body. So you're eating to satisfy nutritional needs, and your body will tell you if you start craving certain foods, you probably ought to eat some of them, because it's your body's probably telling you that you need some of that food. But just watch the quantity. We eat when we smell food. We eat when we see food. We eat when we hear food. Popcorn. I hate that stuff. You go, what? Yeah, I hate popcorn. Now here's why. Here's why. I eat popcorn and I get busy eating it, and I'm so intense about eating that I bite down on a hard kernel of popcorn, and what does it do? It cracks the side off of a tooth. And now I have to go to the dentist to get a cap put on the tooth. You know what that cap cost? A couple $100. I hate popcorn. I eat it, I break teeth. Just quit eating it. Okay? I would, except when someone is cooking popcorn, you hear it, you smell it. Okay, let me ask you a question. When you were thinking about what it was going to taste like, when you heard it and when you smelled it, when you tasted it, did it taste as good as you thought it would when you were listening to it and smelling it? Invariably, popcorn seems to smell better and sound better than it really does taste. So start to understand what's going on with your body and saying, I can do without that popcorn. Okay, there's some other times we eat too. We eat when we're anxious. Did you know that? We eat when we're depressed. We eat when we're bored. We eat when we're angry. We eat when we're excited. We just eat, don't we? We just live in a society, when it talks about the social, we live in a society where we just eat a lot. You're watching a sports event on television, and you're happy to sit there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and watch this sports event, and all of a sudden they come on with a commercial, and what do you feel a need to get up and do? Go get some chips and some dip and come back to watch the rest of the ball game. Don't do it. This culture we live in has just made such a big deal out of food. We eat when people offer us food. We eat 3 meals a day and then snacks and then pick-me-ups and on and on and on. And that's why page 337 talks about a problem in our society. Isn't it 337? Yeah, there's a picture at the bottom of the page, and that ugly word right there in the middle of the page, obesity. And just understand that in America, we have become a nation that eats too much of stuff that's bad for us. And as a nation, we just need to turn that around. We just need to change some of that. Some of the people in my generation, my wife's brother, for example, he says, Nina, you remember when we were kids? Sometimes we went to bed hungry. She goes, yes, Charlie, I remember that. He says, well, I made sure my kids would never go to bed hungry. And we were at his house one time eating dinner, and he took big heapings of food and put it on each of his kids' plates and made them clean it all up because they weren't going to waste food, because he wanted to make sure his kids never went to bed hungry. They never went to bed hungry. They went to bed with an excess number of calories in their body. And you know what your body does if you eat more than you need? Does anyone know what biologically happens when I eat more food than I really need to sustain my level of activity? My body takes the extra food and stores it in tiny little compartments called fat cells. It builds little storage compartments and it stores the extra stuff I ate there. And the only way to get rid of them is to simply cut back on how much I eat. And if I do that, if my doctor says you need to lose 10 pounds, then I'm going, there's only one way to do that, and that's to walk around feeling hungry for a while till I've caused my body to consume some of the stored fat in the fat cells. Now understand that we're all built differently. Some of us are big bone, some small bone, some have a metabolism that operates differently. So you have to take all that in consideration. But the thing to keep in mind here is that this eating stuff is a driving force for a huge problem in America, and a lot of it has to do with the way we were raised. Part of my raising was living on a farm where I was very active, so I ate big meals. I moved to town and take up a sedentary lifestyle, and I have to cut back on the size of the portions I eat. But that's just part of dealing with life as I changed my culture. And then as I got older, my metabolism, when I was younger, my metabolism was going, my engine was running real fast. So I could burn up a lot of those calories. Now it starts to slow down. I have to make some more adjustments. And it's either make the adjustments or get to the place where I can't even put my shoes on because I can't bend over to reach them. So I better make the adjustments or it could put me in the grave. Thirst, page 339, we talked about that already. Sexual motivation. You know what bothers me? Okay, there's no question God made us male and female. He made us sexual creatures. And therefore, when you get married, I would suggest don't read it till after you're married. What's the point of reading it before? But when you get married, it's a healthy thing for a married man and woman to read some of these books about sexuality together written by Christians. So we can start to regain a Christian perspective. Because the world you're growing up in, I mean, toothpaste has sex appeal, cars have sex appeal, alcoholic beverages have sex appeal. Give me a break. We've just oversexed our society. So we've made sexuality like a bigger thing than it really is. I mean, yes, it's a part of life, and it's a part of life that God intended to be shared in a marital relationship. And as I've told students in human growth and development class, the sexual part of a marriage relationship is not the major part of the relationship. It's a minor part of the relationship, and we better recognize that there's more to life than just sexual activity. And by the way, I think that's part of the problem in Hollywood. I'll just tell you, okay, they're the ones that promote this stuff, don't they, with the movies they make. I think those actors don't even realize it, but when they make these movies that make such a big deal out of human sexuality, it starts to affect their thinking, and they start thinking that relationships are primarily sexual. And if you think that way, then guess what happens to your relationships? They just keep falling apart. They just keep falling apart because life is more than that. That's a part of life, but it's not all of life. And you're living in a world, and I'm living in a world today in a culture where we have all kinds of what I would call sexual perversions, because the Bible is very clear and very specific on how humans should practice sexuality, and the society we live in says that's just not the case. And they're lying to us. They're simply lying to us. And hopefully you'll go through the Bible and extract the verses that have to do with the truth of that. and live accordingly. Okay, same thing with sexual orientation. He made us male and female, and that should settle it. And if people are confused, you can start talking to them about what led to their confusion and help get them straightened out. And now I understand that some states, I think California, has passed a law that people who are trying to help people understand their sexual confusion are not allowed to do that, because that's wrong to try to get people straightened out in their sexual thinking. You should just accept them for what they are. That's like telling me that that's wrong to try to get a thief to quit stealing.
I was reading about that, right? I actually believe it's you can't do anything against their will.
Yes.
If they are looking to seek help, that's not illegal, but you can't help them against their will.
But I think out in California now, they've recently passed some laws that you can't even help them if they want help. They're doing some strange things out there. Strange things. It's pretty sad, but you're right. And that's the way it should be, shouldn't it? If somebody says, I'm frustrated, I'm confused, can you help me? You say, I can help you. And then take them to the scriptures and show them how God can help them get their lives together. Page 343 talks about other motives. Exploration and curiosity. So how curious are you about stuff? Do you like to go exploring just to see what's on the other side of the mountain? I'm going, don't you want to climb to the top of the mountain just to see what it looks like from there? And I start climbing the mountain, I get halfway up, and what do I conclude? I think I've seen enough. Oh no, we have to go all the way to the top. And when someone says that to you, you go, no, I've studied psychology. You have to go all the way to the top. I'll sit here on a rock and enjoy the scenery till you come back down. And when you come back down, you'll say, wow, you should have seen the view from the top. I said, did you take a picture? They say, yes. I say, good, show it to me. You go, but this picture doesn't do it justice. But you know what I'm thinking? From my vantage point, would I have rather sat half on a rock halfway up the mountain and rested and looked at a picture when they came down? Or do I feel compelled to climb up there and see it for myself? You understand? I just don't have that kind of curiosity. Have you ever had a watch that quit working and you wondered what happened to it and take it apart just to see what makes it work? You go, no. Well, you just aren't as curious as somebody else is. And we all have curiosity in different areas of life. Another kind of motivation is manipulation, that you want to manipulate something or contact something. You simply, you want to touch things to see what they feel like. Little kids are notorious for that. Wanting to touch stuff and wanting to do things to manipulate stuff. And it's like, hey, give them some things to manipulate, give them some things to handle, give them things to play with. We had 2 daughters, okay, and these daughters brought into our lives some grandsons. And these grandsons used to watch me working with my tools, and they would ask me if they could play with my tools. And I thought, man, I've got Craftsman tools, you know, those kind that are guaranteed for life and they're high dollar stuff. I'll go up to Harbor Freight and buy some of those cheap tools for them to play with. Then it won't matter if they lose them. And I bought each of them a little set of tools and gave them to them. And they weren't satisfied with that. Do any of you understand that? You know what they said? Poppy, thank you for the tools, but can I play with your tools? Why did they want to play with my high dollar Craftsman tools instead of those little cheap Chinese things from Harbor Freight? And how could they tell the difference? I mean, I'll bet you couldn't tell the difference. I'll bet if I put a Craftsman tool on the table and a Harbor Freight wrench, the same kind, you wouldn't know the difference, would you? Oh, you would, Liz? So do you understand why my grandchildren wanted to play with the high dollar tools? Because those were your dad's tools, right? And there's something about playing with his tools that's more than playing with your own little cheap Harbor Freight tools. And see, the rest of the class, they're looking like, what? What? And I didn't understand that till I picked up on that from studying psychology, that's the way these grandkids are. So, what do? Well, I go back to one of my driving spiritual forces in life. People are things. People are things. What's more important to God? My grandsons or my tools? My craftsman tools or my grandsons? Which one's more important to God? You don't know. Which one's more important to God? My grandsons or my craftsman tools?
Grandsons.
My grandsons. That's an obvious one, isn't it? So I let my grandsons play with my craftsman tools, and sure enough, they leave them out and they lose them, but they had fun. And so what do? Until I can find craftsman's on sale again, I go buy some of those cheap Harbor Freight tools and use them myself. Aggression on page 345. Did God make us aggressive? He created Adam and Eve, put them in a garden, told them to fight over all the fruit in the garden. Did he? No, didn't he tell them that it's there for you to enjoy and you're to take care of it, harvest it, enjoy it? So where did this aggression come from? Anyone remember in Genesis where the first event of aggression is recorded in the Bible?
Cain and Abel.
And what happened with Cain and Abel? They just didn't like each other?
Cain didn't like Abel.
Why not?
He was jealous of his offerings that he gave to God.
And so because of his jealousy, he said, any of you ever been jealous of an older or a younger sibling? A little bit jealous? Yeah. So what does aggression tell you to do? Based on Cain and Abel. What's it tell you to do?
Smack 'em.
Just kill them. Whack them. Go, whoa, wait a minute. That is not the solution. Why wasn't someone there to say, don't do that to your brother? There's another way to work this out. Did God make us aggressive? No. We became aggressive as the result of man's fall into sin. And we just need to recognize. Now, did God make us with a lot of these other motives for achievement and to have a satisfactory life, and as we'll talk about later, for happiness and that kind of thing? Yes, he did. But he did not create us with this aggressiveness to destroy other people. It came as a result of man's sinful nature. Now, in the middle of page 345, it says, aggression is a vestige of our evolutionary past. See, that's where those evolutionists, survival of the fittest, you have to be aggressive if you're going to outwit and survive the weaker. And that's a sad thing. I don't know if you know this or not, but in some cultures and in some societies, little children are pretty much left to fend for themselves. And here's why. Because they believe that the fittest survive and the weakest shrivel up and die. And we shouldn't interfere with the process. That is so sad. Aggression can grow out of frustration. It can grow out of pain that we've been inflicted with. It can grow out of a whole bunch of things. But aggression is never an appropriate kind of behavior for a person to engage in. But we see a lot of it in our society. Okay, I think we all know why our society has such a fixation on sexuality, because we're bombarded with it. Are we also bombarded with aggression? Is violence someone said to me one time, often a good movie is ruined because they put some sexuality in it that was really unnecessary. Do they also sometimes put aggression in it that's really unnecessary to the heart of the story? So it could be that some of this aggression is the result of the culture we live in, that it just promotes that kind of thing. Page 346 talks about how we learn to be aggressive by observing aggressive role models. And it talks on page 346 about Quakers and Amish and Mennonites and Hutterites have traditionally valued nonviolence and peaceful coexistence. That paragraph right there in the middle of page 346 tells me that the author of our textbook has a knowledge of certain subgroups in America that a lot of people in psychology aren't even aware of. Were you raised in a family that taught you that hurting people and being aggressive was wrong and that you shouldn't do it? Can you imagine the life of a little kid who's raised in a home where the father tells him that I have to kind of rough you up so you'll get ready to rough other people up because that's the way life is? That's pretty sad when you encounter that. But that's what goes on in many families in America. And some people take their aggression out on their kids just because they're frustrated. I saw a cartoon once where a guy got chewed out at work by his boss, so he comes home and chews out his kids, and then his kids kick the dog, and it's just like they just pass it on down. And somewhere we have to say, probably, and this is what I like about the way his textbook is laid out, on page 345 it talks about aggression, and then on page 347 it talks about achievement. And that, I believe, is a gift from God. Our desire to achieve and accomplish something. And I wish we could take all the aggressive people in the world and focus their energies in terms of trying to achieve something. You go, well, yeah, that's what football players, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to achieve a world championship by beating every other team they play. I'm going, okay, I can understand that if that's the kind of activity you want to engage in, but I need to ask you a question individually, guys. When you go out on that field, are you really focused on winning the game, or are you intent on hurting the other guy so he can't play anymore? You follow how some people can be very aggressive and winning the game is not their primary objective, it's inflicting pain on other people. So if you're going to work with kids in sports, you better start talking to them about what it is they're trying to accomplish. And sad to say, a lot of coaches today would say that's the way to win, is to, they've got a good quarterback and they only have one good quarterback, so what's the game plan, guys? Put him out of commission so he can't play anymore, so we can win every game we play against him. That to me is that's just wrong. Page 348 talks about affiliation. Generally it says people have a need for affiliation. That is, to be with other people. Well, here's that question again. Did God make us social creatures? Did God create us? When God created us, did He make us with a need for affiliation? You go, nope, I don't need anybody. I can go through life on my own. What did He say about Adam in the garden when he was surrounded by all these animals? It's not good for man to be, what? Alone. I will make for him a helpmate, a helper. And here's the question we have to come to grips with, whether we like it or not, Ethan. When God made a helper for Adam, did He make a buddy or did He make a wife?
A wife.
Oh, man. And women, isn't this fair to say, Ethan? And women are just strange.
I guess.
You haven't met any?
I have.
My mother was strange. My sisters were strange. Women are just strange. And it's like, wait a minute. Part of God's design is for me to develop a friendship with the other half of the human race. And no, they don't think like I do. They don't feel like I do. We don't even talk about things the same way. I mean, today when you came to class, I said, so how you feeling? Because this chapter was on feeling. Say, are you a happy camper today? Now, if I was a woman teaching this class, I probably would be inclined to greet you with saying, oh, I like that sweater you're wearing. That's a nice outfit. Or your hair looks nice today. You understand? That, and if I were to do that, maybe I should have done that today. Maybe I should have sat here and made female kinds of comments when you walk in the door. And then you're already going, what is Dr. Bonite up to now? What is he doing? And see, the reason I'm aware of that is because my best friend is a woman, my wife, and she's helped me by observing her and talking to her. She's helped me understand that woman's point of view. And somewhere in my life, I came to realize that God created me to have this relationship with this other person, and that relating to her, the more I understand her, the more I understand the big picture of how God sees the world He's created. He didn't just create a male world. He didn't create a female world. He created a world where both perspectives are embraced, and we do our best and we're at our best when we begin to affiliate with the whole human race and not just a few people like ourselves. On page 348, it talks about Maslow's hierarchy, and I have a handout for that one too. Oh, here it is. Because the book only kind of gives an overview of it, and this handout gives you a larger perspective on Maslow's hierarchy. So, and I'll be uploading this to Canvas too, so it'll be up there where people can download it and save it to a flash drive. But just to have this to carry with you and to keep around can be valuable. And probably, okay, on the back it talks about criticisms of Maslow's hierarchy, so we'll just look at the back of the page. Now see, these are, it says page 3 through 3 of 6, but I've only given you 2 pages, so there's a lot more stuff you can find if you go to Wikipedia and look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But the criticism is that there's little evidence to support the rankings of these needs. Most people don't argue with Maslow about the categories of needs. They just kind of argue about the hierarchy. Because Maslow, you can see from the picture on page 349, he puts at the bottom the physiological needs. That would be your need for rest and food and water. And then it moves up to safety needs. And Maslow's point would be that you can't feel safe unless you're well fed and well rested. It's like, no, I could be tired and I could be hungry, but I could feel safe. You follow me? That there isn't just this hierarchy. So some people are very critical of his hierarchy because they don't see evidence for it, but the categories I think are healthy. We all need to have our basic biological needs met. We all need to have a sense of feeling safe, don't we? We all need to have a sense of belonging, relationships. we all need to have, what was that next one on the list? Esteem needs. What is that one? On the back of the page? I love this word used on this handout. Under esteem, it says all humans have a need to what? The top of the page where it says page 3 on the back. All humans have a need to, you see it there? Turn this page over I just gave you. All humans have under esteem, all humans have a need to feel what?
Respected.
Respected. To be, and then the next sentence says to be, and I circled, all humans have a need to feel respected. Then I circled, to be accepted and valued by others. Now that's important. Because some people have taken this esteem thing and made it sound like you can give yourself a sense of worth. I read one of those books one time, and so I thought, I'll try this. And I stood in front of the mirror and I said, you're good, Tom. You're really good, Tom. You are really, really a good friend. And the more I talked to myself like that, the more I started feeling sick to my stomach, because I knew I was lying to the guy in the mirror. You know, I know myself for who I am. Esteem doesn't come from you give it. And the point the book was making, if nobody else will give you any esteem, then give yourself some. And I'm just telling you, it doesn't work. What works is feeling respected by others. And what will generate respect from others toward me? Me respecting other people. And what will generate other people accepting and valuing me? Me doing what? Accepting and valuing them. Someone comes to visit church, and I say, so what do you think of our church? And they go, well, I walked in the door and I was waiting to see if someone was going to speak to me. Well, why are you doing that? Why don't you speak to somebody else first? You follow? Why don't you take the initiative? And I think part of our world today has made us think that we just need to stand around and wait till somebody respects us, till somebody accepts us, till somebody values us. And I'm thinking, no, you need to start respecting, accepting, and valuing other people. And the more you do that toward others, the more they'll reciprocate and come back to you. It just works that way. So keep this handout handy. And then the top one on the list is self-actualization. That other handout I gave you that talked about the spiritual dimension at the bottom of it, I think that's so powerful. Understanding the purpose of one's life. Connecting yourself to the ultimate unknowns, except they're not unknown to us because we have the Bible to tell us about all those things that people don't know anything about because they don't read the Bible. So basically, I was at the university in a class where the guy was talking about self-esteem, self-actualized people, and he said Jesus was self-actualized and Gandhi was self-actualized, and he said, and beyond them, I can't think of anybody in history that really was probably self-actualized. He said, I'll give you a little self-actualization test just to show you that none of you in this room are self-actualized. And he asked these 10 questions. And he said, just write down yes or no for each of the questions. And I listened to the questions. I wrote down yes, 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 yes. When he got to the 10th one, I had said yes to all 10 of them. And he said, did anybody answer yes to all 10? And I started to raise my hand. He said, of course not. So I just adjusted my glasses and put my hand back down. He said, because nobody in this room is self-actualized. None of us are. And then I sat there and realized, wow, Lord, the questions he asked, about half of them had to do with my relationship to you. And my relationship to God is such that guess what it makes me? It makes me what Maslow called a self-actualized person. Because I find my sense of being in who I am in Christ. You understand that? So the more you develop and cultivate and nurture your relationship with your Lord Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, the more actualized you become. And then it's not self-actualization, and that's why the world's missing it. It's becoming all that God intended me to be. So read this handout that talks about Maslow's hierarchy. And how can that be? I was going to talk about the whole chapter today, so we'll just save emotions for Monday, and we're a little behind, but that's all right. This is good stuff.